Not only did the Missouri legislature pass a bill that allows police to arrest squatters, they also passed a ban on eviction moratoriums. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of Missouri. So Missouri legislator right now is really working hard to make sure that, hey, landlords are treated right, property owners are treated with respect, and that people's property rights within the state are respected, okay? This is a good thing, okay? They decided they were going to pass a ban on eviction moratoriums. After all the nonsense that went on during the pandemic, they said, you know what? We do not want that happening again. There are too many property owners who ended up with huge amounts of debt. Some of them were put in financial ruin due to those eviction moratoriums, and it's absolute nonsense. They prevented absolutely nothing, and they just dug a hole that a lot of property owners had to dig themselves out of. So yeah, they put a ban on eviction moratoriums. That is something that I'm glad to see, and I want to see more states passing such a thing. The other thing they're doing is they're going after these high-profile squatters lately that have been basically treating landlords like garbage and forcing us to go through the civil eviction process, even in states like Missouri. So they said, we're going to change our law and make it so that the landlord can, have that person arrested and removed from their property immediately, and they don't have to go through that civil eviction process. Okay, this is also another piece of legislation which I believe should be passed everywhere. So yeah, really good stuff going on in Missouri. I wish that I still owned property there in a way. I'm still kind of scared of all of the nonsense going on in the Kansas City area. But you know what? Missouri is still a good place to invest, maybe outside of Kansas City proper. Okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think that the eviction moratoriums should be banned nationwide? Okay? Now, the state of Missouri obviously has banned them, and a lot of the states in the South and in the Midwest have said, hey, they have no intention of ever implementing such a policy ever again. Obviously, the Supreme Court found that the eviction moratoriums that were federal were unconstitutional, but I'd like to see a blanket ban on these things across the entire country. I would like the landlords in places like California and New York who had to suffer through that nonsense for 3+ years. I'd like them to get some relief as well, okay? But we're not going to see that unless the administration steps up, the presidential administration steps up, or we see something in the House and Congress that forbids such actions from ever taking place again. And I don't know if that's even possible at this point. Anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says. This article is coming from STLPR.org, and it says, Missouri legislator passes eviction moratorium ban as part of property rights bill. Yeah. Bills that focus on property rights. That's what I like reading, not tenant rights, property rights. Okay? Now, I'm not saying we should treat tenants unfairly, but we have to face the fact that, simply put, if a landlord is not able to collect the rent, not able to remove the tenants from their property if they are not paying the rent, not able to choose the tenants that they want in their property, well, the person, you don't have any property rights, okay? If all that stuff is up to the government, then basically only thing you're doing is facilitating a transaction between the tenant and the government, not between you and the tenant. So anyway, let's see what the article says. The Missouri legislature has passed a bill that prohibits municipalities and other local governments from creating and enforcing any eviction moratoriums unless they are authorized by state law. Members of the House of Representatives voted 145-1 Thursday to pass the legislation. Because it has already gone through the Senate, the bill now goes to Governor Bipartisan. And I am confident that the governor of Missouri is going to sign this bill. It passed 145-1. That means that, politicians on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, including progressive Democrats, signed this. Okay? It's an overwhelming majority. The overwhelming majority of people say, hey, you know what? We do not need local municipalities passing these laws. And that makes sense to me because these laws, eviction moratoriums are toxic. They are toxic. They destroy development. They push landlords out of the rental business. They make it harder for people to find affordable housing. They do not help anything. And yet they push these policies as though they were some kind of miracle that would save people. And the only thing it did was hurt people. It hurt more people than it ever could have possibly helped. Representative Ingrid Burnett, a Democrat from Kansas City, was the lone Democrat to vote against the bill. We can't anticipate the kinds of disasters that could require some extraordinary circumstance, extraordinary rules, Burnett said. Yes, you can predict, but simply put, we do not suspend the Constitution of the United States because of extraordinary circumstances. That's ridiculous, okay? No, you don't have freedom of speech anymore because there's a pandemic. Oh no, you don't have property rights anymore because there's a pandemic. Oh no, you don't have freedom of movement anymore. No, what we need to do is enshrine the Constitution in law, make sure that there's nothing, including a sickness or whatever next thing that happens, whatever the next big thing is, because there's always going to be another big thing. There's always going to be another big thing, and according to some people, we need to have these powers. We need to be able to strip your rights away whenever we darn well please. Well, no, I don't agree with that, and I never will. During the COVID-19 pandemic, local governments across the state, including those of Kansas City and St. Louis, implemented moratoriums that stopped landlords from evicting tenants due to non-payment of rent. Speaking on his bill, Representative Chris Brown, a Republican from Kansas City, said he believes this is the third year that the House has passed an eviction moratorium bill out of its chamber. Representative Jamie Johnson, a Democrat from Kansas City, said while she personally dislikes the policy, she has heard from several of her constituents who are landlords and want the bill. Yeah, that's kind of rare right there. When you're talking about a person, okay, and she's a Democrat, she does not like the bill personally, but rather than worrying about what she personally likes, she is going to represent the people who voted and live within her district. Voted for her and live within her district and what they want, okay? And that's what these people should be doing. You are a representative of the people, of the voters, okay? You're not representing yourself down there. It doesn't matter if you personally want socialism, but everyone else in your district hates socialism, so you need to say no to socialism, period. And if you can't handle that, get the heck out of office. That's what I say. And more politicians need to be like that. That's actually a good position to be in, okay? And I respect that. That is respectful. Even though I might not agree with all of your personal preferences, the fact that you are representing the people who live within your district and what they want, that's important, okay? I do understand their plight. I do understand what they went through during COVID and how scary it was for them as investors. So I will be supporting this policy, Johnson said. The measure is just one of those in the legislation dealing with property and property rights, many of which have the support of both parties. One of the issues with strong bipartisan support is legislation allowing St. Louis County and other counties to establish a land bank. And then they kind of go into this thing about St. Louis County establishing a land bank. I don't really care about that. But there's another thing in here about what they are trying to do to deal with the whole squatter issue. And I'm going to skip down so that I can tell you about that right now. Also, I'm sorry. Okay, another measure related to property is a new penalties associated with squatting. Under the new provision, property owners will be allowed to petition a local court to remove unlawful occupants. It also creates a Class A misdemeanor penalty for squatting. The penalty was originally drafted to be a felony charge, but a Senate amendment sponsored by Senator Barbara Washington, a Democrat from Kansas City, lowered it. So, yeah, originally it was going to be a felony charge. I wish that they would have kept it that way because a lot of misdemeanor charges, they don't have any jail time associated to the charge. So, people might be able to be removed for this crime, but it's unlikely they're going to get any jail time. And in my opinion, they're committing an act of grand theft by breaking into a property and then basically stealing it. And so in my mind, that is the same as somebody stealing a car. It doesn't matter if you only intended on joyriding in it. That is grand theft, in my opinion. But yeah, this is good legislation that they are passing. I am glad to hear about it. Like I said, I don't invest in Missouri anymore. I used to. Very landlord-friendly place. But, you know, Kansas City, St. Louis, they are trying to be little islands of anti-landlord laws. And, you know, part of the laws that the people in these areas passed are, this is the direct response to that, okay? They are the reason why the legislature in Missouri felt they had to step up and do something about the whole situation. So anyway, I'll put a link to this article in the description down below.